Okay, I guess we're ready to go. All right. Welcome back. We are ready to get going again here, and I want to apologize for the streaming issues that we had on the last couple of sessions, but at least for now, we are back up and running on Crowdcast, and we are also streaming on YouTube. So whichever platform is working best for you at the moment, it should be streaming in both places. So this session now is with Harmony Bettenhausen from the Hartwick College Center for Craft Food and Beverage. And I think many of you already have met Harmony through her excellent session last weekend about barley quality in the Northeast and the challenging year that we had in 2021. But today she'll be talking to us about the services available through Hartwick and some of the other projects that she is working on currently. So thank you for being with us this afternoon, Harmony, and go ahead and get started with your presentation.
Great. Thank you, Hillary, and congratulations again on your Malt Cup win. Super awesome. So I'm really sad to not be there at our little table talking with everybody, but it is what it is, maybe next year. So again, I'm Harmony. I'm the director of the Hartwick College Center for Craft Food and Beverage. And our mission, as always, is to support growth and innovation in craft food and beverage production through quality testing, research, and education, while providing unique and valuable experiences for our Hartwick students. And here's just a little picture of our lab. Some of you may have been here, some not. You're free to come visit anytime. Little brief history, with which I'm sure a lot of you have heard before. The center was conceptualized way back in 2013 and finally came to fruition in about 2015 and was awarded a lot of money in startup funding from federal, state, and private sources. And in 2016, of course, the inaugural director, Erin McLeod, came on. Today, we are a fee-for-service lab. We support ourselves, basically. We support a lot of industry and academic research collaborations, and we try to do a lot of client education. Hopefully, we'll be back up and maybe doing some webinars or some in-person trainings, fun things like that. And I wanted to take this time to kind of talk to you about this transition that happened this past year. I know it was a little weird and a little sudden when Erin left. Again, inaugural director. He was here from 2016 to 2021 to last year, and went back to Canada with his family. And you might be asking, where the hell did I come from? So I came from Colorado State University. I did my master's in food science there and finished my PhD there this past year. I started in the brewing industry way back in 1999-ish, I think it was. I was trying to think about that this morning at Odell Brewing in Fort Collins, Colorado. Did a bunch of stuff in the interim, which I won't talk about. You're free to ask me about it. I stayed, mostly in the industry, did some Peace Corps, some other random stuff, went back to Colorado and decided that I needed to go to grad school because my body was hurting from doing manual labor in breweries. So I joined the agricultural chem labs at CSU. And put out a bunch of papers. Some of you may have read them. A lot of them are in the Journal of the ASBC. So that's about it. That's how and it was about this time last year when Erin and I started talking, and he was, he sort of told me that he was thinking about going back to Canada, and we started talking about if I could best fit this role. And I'm hoping I'm best fitting this role and, moving research forward and trying to connect with a lot of you about what's going on, trying to be your partner in your quality journey. So what do we do here? Most of you already know this. We do some beer quality testing. Hillary was just asking me actually if we get a lot of clients for beer testing. We get some. We are also capable of doing some micro, but we don't get asked a whole lot for it, but we do have that capability. You're free to just, or if you have someone to refer us to, you're free to just call us up and ask us about anything like that. Of course, we do grain quality testing. Most of you know about this, determining the basics of your grain, germination characteristics, of course, the cereal extract, which is the measurement of the predicted extract yield, and RVA and DOT, of course. And actually, Erin and I were just talking about this and got together some information and just wanted to show you the number of grain samples over the years. And we've obviously been on a steady incline, which is wonderful. I'm so glad you guys are sending us your grain samples. It's so great to look at all of them, and we really do. All of us here, we kind of pour over all of these grain samples and learn as much as we can from them. And of course, our malt quality testing. We do a lot of malt quality testing, and I'm going to talk about some of our lesser known tests in just a little bit. But also looking at the number of malt samples we've gotten over the years from 2016 to 2021, also a steady incline, which is wonderful. A little dip there in 2020 due to some pandemic-related things, of course. But again, you already know who we are, basically. I have a feeling. So I'm going to talk about things you might not know. We do a lot of research, a lot of collaboration with industry and academia, focused on evaluating functional and sensory properties of your ingredients, helping to maximize grain quality through agronomics and plant breeding, process optimization and improvement, and novel uses for ingredients and byproducts. And we, of course, sort of woven into this is working with our students. And we are a primarily undergrad university, or actually a college. And we try to promote these positive outcomes for our students through research opportunities, whether that, working here in the summer as a full-time or working on a senior thesis project. We try to help them apply skills that they learn in the classroom, test out their interests and set, professional and personal goals for the future, whether that's getting a job or going to intern somewhere or going to grad school, and really try to improve the understanding of the relationship between the theory and practice for greater success all around. Because we all know that we can sit in a classroom and hear it and vomit it back up on a test, but putting it into practice is an entirely different thing, right? So back to the malt quality testing, I want to talk about our lesser known to some people tests. The phenol, the predicted spirit yield, and glycosidic nitrile, which is those are primarily for when you're talking with distillers. So I'll start a little bit with the glycosidic nitrile. Some of you may have heard of this. It's been around, we've been talking about it for a long time. There are journals talking about it dated way back. So glycosidic nitrile, it all starts with the epiheterodendron, the EPH you may have heard of, in barley. It's a glycosidic nitrile produced in a range of concentrations during the malting process. And you can kind of see in that schematic on the right side there, the flow of how the epiheterodendron turns into hydrogen cyanide. And then during the distillation process, which is the process that it most affects it, it reacts with ethanol and the copper from the stills to create ethyl carbamate. And that little molecule down on the bottom there is ethyl carbamate, and it is actually, it's considered a carcinogen. And it is regulated in markets in Canada and the EU. It's primarily genetically controlled, with some varieties actually lacking the gene for producing EPH. And those are considered non-GN varieties. So we do need malting barley varieties with low levels of that GN. So if you're working with your distillers and you just need a little bit of information, we've got a little bit of information. Varieties of malty barley grown in North America do exhibit a range of the glycosidic nitrile levels. And this was from a study done in 2018. It was Aaron McLeod and Hannah and Jamie Sherman at MSU. And this, I think this was a presentation. I'm not sure if this was published or not, but it is a presentation. And you can just kind of see the range there in those box and whisker plots of the different varieties and how much GN they contain. Odyssey, Full Pint, and Genie obviously being the lowest there. There, to my knowledge, are currently no commercialized non-GN winter barley varieties. So that's something I think that some breeders might be working on as it becomes more of a concern. But international varieties are available that meet the standards, but they're not well adapted to all of the growing regions. Conditions which increase the levels of GN in malt, which might concern you as maltsters, longer germination times, higher germination moisture, higher germination temperature. And there's, of course, a genotype process interaction effect. And this graph on the right from the same study, from the same presentation, shows the glycosidic nitrile on the y-axis there and moisture and temperature on the x-axis, just exemplifying the higher moisture and the higher germination moisture and temperature affecting the amount of GN in malt. Predicted spirit yield. So predicted spirit yield represents alcohol production potential per malt weight. It's reported as liters of absolute alcohol per ton of malt, LAA per ton. You'll see it represented if you get that on a report from us. And it's a product of extract and fermentability. It is positively correlated with extract and negatively correlated with grain protein and positively correlated with fermentability. And this graph here just shows a few of the barley varieties, and the Aaron actually did a lot of work on determining the predicted spirit yield of these varieties. And the concerto, I believe, is a multi-use variety, but you can see here the amount of PSY, predicted spirit yields, in these varieties. And as I said, this is positively correlated with extract and negatively correlated with grain protein. And this graph here shows that the varieties with lower grain protein, actually these are all the same varieties, but when Copeland, Odyssey, New Dale, and Genie had about 9% protein versus 12% protein, they obviously, because it is positively correlated with extract, because the less protein you have, the more extract you will get, had higher PSY. So why do you care about this? Because malting can be partially responsible for it, and when distillers start to talk to you about this, you might need to know what you can do. The factors that promote high extract are low grain protein, fast modification, and of course high alpha amylase. As far as promoting fermentability, you need a balanced modification and high diastatic power. And in the future, we have a lot of talk about trying to determine the relationships between extract, fermentability, spirit yield, and the relationships to all those other traits and characteristics. But again, that's sort of a long-term goal for this and takes quite a bit of work, but maybe we will get there in the future. So we also, in case you didn't know, we have some micro malting capabilities. Maybe you didn't know, we've got, used to be called CLP, it's a Curio, they're called Curio now, micro malting system and kiln, which we use for special projects on basically a lab scale. We can do 200 grams to 8 kilograms, barley, wheat, rice, rye, oats, sorghum, whatever. We've done a lot of variety and agronomic trials for people, mostly universities, University of Kentucky, Vermont, OSU, of course, Cornell, Penn State, Virginia Tech. And those are just for universities, but if you have something you're working on as well, call us up and we can talk about it. We can help you get the most out of your grain, out of your process, help you optimize. We've been working with a lot of alternative grains. And this little bar graph here was, it's just an example of a recent study we did. Someone was asking us to determine enzymatic activity in sorghum. So you can see we were looking at germination time and temperatures and determined that obviously the higher temperatures and longer germination for the most part without encouraging microbial growth did help us get more enzyme out of that sorghum. So there's a lot we can do with that. Again, just, if you're looking at those things, if you're thinking about it, if you don't want to make a whole batch on your own and have some ideas about how we can optimize your process, or if you have an issue that you're working on, let us know and we can definitely talk about it. We do have higher instrumentation. We've got an LCMS, and these are all Agilent instruments. They're really great instruments. We've got an LCMS and an HPLC, which of course we can look at those non-volatile compounds, precursors to any sort of aroma compounds or anything like that. We've got a GCMS and a GCMS coming, hopefully in the next couple months, and we can do some more volatile aroma compound work. This goes back to our phenol test that I showed you earlier on the price list there, and that's the total phenol. And what we can do with our HPLC right now is determine the common phenolics, perhaps, that are found in these in these peated malts. There are a lot of different phenols, and we can pretty much find them all. So if you're looking for something like that, and this is especially something that distillers may be interested in, determining those flavor compounds in their distillates, in anything. So again, we do have these capabilities, but not a whole lot of people know about them. We don't really talk about them too much, but if you're interested, all you have to do is give us a call and we can talk about those things. So one of the things we've been doing with one of our students, our undergrads, for her senior project is working on the determination of ferulic acid content in rye with the HPLC, the high performance liquid chromatography instrument. Again, phenolic acid's the most common phenolic compound in cereal grains. And ferulic acid is a phytochemical, and it's the most abundant phenolic acid in grains like wheat and rye. And those exist in what's called free and bound forms in those grains, and they're mainly found in the insoluble fraction, and that's considered the bound form. And free phenolic acids are found in the outer layer of the pericarp. The bound phenolic acids are what's called esterified to the cell walls, and you need hydrolysis. You need hydration and hydrolysis to release these bound compounds from the cell wall. Ferulic acid is concentrated in that outer layer of the grain, and is the precursor to, you may have heard of the 4-vinyl guaiacol, which is that creates that clovey, spicy character that we sometimes find in beer and in distillate. So with the help of our grad student and not our grad student, sorry, I'm going to have grad students, our undergrad and the HPLC, we're looking at these rye grains, trying to quantify the amount of ferulic acid in rye grain to see what the relationship is to the 4-VG found in beer and distillates. So I didn't want to make this too long, and I'm going to open it up to questions. So again, thank you to everybody who works here, Megan and Olivia, my lab techs, and Peyton, who is the one actually working on that ferulic acid project, and of course, as always, Erin McLeod. So I will open it up to some questions.
I'm going to give people a couple of minutes to ask a few other questions, but I had one about the ferulic acid study that you guys are working on. Are you comparing different rye varieties, or you're trying to use one rye variety and follow it through to the distilled spirit? How are you looking at those things?
A little bit of both. We're looking just at rye varieties right now, but we have put them through the whole process. That's kind of how we're trying to develop those relationships. Like, does the ferulic acid in the grain, have any relationship or correlation to what is in the beer or the distillate, like the whole process. We're trying to, and this, obviously takes a little time and more students than I have right now, but trying to follow it through the whole program and monitor the progress of both ferulic acid and 4-VG.
And Brent had a question about which rye varieties you're actually working with right now.
So we are working with some common varieties. I'm not actually sure if I can talk about them, but I can probably email you a little bit later about that. I'm not actually sure if I can talk about that part. Okay. If you're looking for insider info, maybe we can talk later about that. Sure. But we actually, I don't think, and I haven't done the Empire Rye, so that is that's probably one that we should actually assess, unless I'm wrong, unless Aaron wants to chime in and he actually did look at that, but I personally haven't yet.
I wanted to circle back to the non-GN barley. I know you said you thought someone was working on maybe some winter varieties that would be non-GN producing. Do you know maybe who's working on that, or what kind of time frame that may be available in?
So that was just sort of in conversation with a few people at Oregon State University. There may be other people working on that as well. I mean, it's an issue that we're all, we obviously have to address. And I know some people are looking into it over there. So that's about as far. I mean, that's a pretty long process, obviously, but yeah.
Sure. We had a question from Dave Thomas. Are you looking at osmolite concentration as researched by the USDA Malt Lab?
Don't mess with me, Dave Thomas. No, we're not. No. And I'm sorry. I hate that I can't see all of your faces right now. This is so sad. But no. But if you want to talk more about it, you should call me up and we can talk about that.
All right. Well, I think, Harmony, you gave us a really great idea of what different services we should maybe be thinking about utilizing from you once we've kind of been using you for our analysis regularly and are ready to move on to thinking about things on a little higher level. So thank you so much for your time today and your time that you give to all of us very willingly to discuss our results and think through troubleshooting. I know we all appreciate it so much. And I think that covers all of the questions that we had come in.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, again, thank you to everyone who comes to us for all of that stuff. We really appreciate it. I really love doing this. So.
All right. Well, I guess everybody have a great little break here before our next session. Coming up next at 2:00, we have Bueller with their Remo Malt equipment. So that'll be the next session at 2:00.